Hi, it's Adam from Krav Maga, Northern Beaches, and I'm going through one of the most common questions I get asked by a lot of practitioners here is Brazilian Jiu-jitsu an effective self-defense system? So I'm going to go through in the video a lot of the pros and cons of Jiu-jitsu and sort of look at it as a self-defense system. So I would have to say that Brazilian Jiu-jitsu is probably one of the most effective martial arts, and a lot of this came about, since the early years of the UFC. And with the Gracie family obviously defeating many other arts, if you're great at grappling and you take someone down, it's going to always be effective against a striker, especially if they don't know groundwork. So as a martial arts as a whole, it's extremely effective. And from a self-defense point of view, there's a lot of videos. If you're great at throwing, you can obviously diffuse a self-defense situation by throwing someone to the ground straight away. In some cases, depending on the surface, you'll win someone, or in extreme cases knock someone out just by the impact. So that's extremely effective. Another thing that I like about Jiu-Jitsu is you can really have the opportunity to control someone. If you can control their arms, their body, get them on the ground and get to a controlling position, or if someone did have a weapon and you have some sense of control of that arm, you really restrict their movements, which make it extremely effective. Then obviously its benefits is that once you control someone on the ground, you can really immobilize a joint, whether it be the arm or an ankle, and then obviously at that point you can apply pressure or around the neck, for instance, and someone could you could put them to sleep or do damage to that joint, whether it's a break, etc., which has been proven to be extremely effective. And the other thing that's awesome is it's great against bigger opponents. So if you're a little bit smaller, you can use the leverage that they apply a lot in a lot of the techniques to get someone off balance that may be bigger and stronger than you. But from a self-defense point of view, some things that make it not extremely effective as a self-defense system is that there's really no striking in Jiu-Jitsu. Some clubs might incorporate a little bit, but generally there's no striking. And the hardest thing in any ground art is that from a self-defense point of view, the first question that comes to mind is, what happens with multiple attackers? What do you do if there's 2 or 3 people? Yeah, you might stand and control them from that position, but as soon as you go to the ground and there's a situation where it's 1-on-3 or 1-on-2 even, it's going to be extremely hard to apply a lot of the moves, or it might be a situation where it's 2-on-4. So in these situations with multiple attackers, we highly recommend staying on your feet and moving. Another thing that's really important in self-defense is dealing with pre-fight. And a lot of this area involves, having that basic awareness, situational awareness, de-escalating a situation, might be, walking away or moving away, potentially negotiating your way out verbally, or then having tactical awareness, which is things like, using a common object as a barrier, or as a weapon, or knowing where your exits are. The other things that I think are highlighted are, the fact that, if you train in no-gi jiu-jitsu, I would say this is better for self-defense, more like MMA. But obviously having a gi is challenging, because a lot of the moves that you rely on are grabbing a thick gi. And it depends where you live, but most people don't have that type of clothing. So if you grab a shirt trying to get some type of move on or some type of throw, the shirt will simply rip because it's not going to have that effectiveness. And then obviously I would highly recommend, if you are grappling for self-defense, you can tweak things, as a grappler, have that basic awareness and use grappling as an effective self-defense system. But you wouldn't want to fight off your back. You want to be fighting in a position where you're in a dominant position, like knee rider or top position, which is going to be much more effective than being on your back. So arts such as MMA and wrestling are more effective, I believe, for street self-defense systems. So this is a good overview of Jiu-Jitsu. It's an amazing art. I love it. It's got so much depth, and it's a great system. But just looking at the pros and cons of it as an effective self-defense system.